had something in your teeth for like the past, I don't know how long, because we only just started more to the left there.
Wait, hang on.
It's like near the gum.
Let's see. I can see a picture of my own face if I look at the messenger. Let's see.
Nope.
Is that it? No?
You may have gotten it.
Okay.
Merry Christmas, everybody!
What
a magical way to start the Christmas.
Hey baby, I hear those jingle bells are calling. It's time for the Frazier on Frazier podcast.
Indeed, it is. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. It's us, the hosts of Frazier on Frazier. I'm Adam Frazier, and with me is Wes Corwin. And we're just so dang excited for the Christmas season. It's tradition here on Frazier on Frazier, and I say tradition even though we've only done it once before.
We've done it, but that means we've had a podcast for over a year, which is wild.
Right. So it's tradition for us to review a Christmas film featuring Kelsey Grammer or some other member of the Frazier family, which there seems to be an abundance of, weirdly enough.
Yep.
Well, I say abundance. There's Mr. Satanic, which is what we did last year.
Right.
Terrible movie.
Not
but
great.
But entertaining enough. But entertaining enough to where like we had interesting stuff to talk about when we watched.
It had a so bad it's good quality to. Some of the jokes were so absurd and the production decisions were so bizarre that we had quite a bit to discuss. We ended up going for like an hour and a half talking about Mr. Saint Nick. We felt a lot of things about Mr. Saint Nick.
Going into this movie, we're not quite as optimistic, but we're going to be talking about what is this? What year is this from? Even it's 2004. Yeah, 2004's A Christmas Carol, the musical from the TV. It's a made-for-TV Christmas Carol, and we
made for NBC. I want to get through some of the facts that I looked up because I feel like we're gonna burn through these very quickly.
Right. So let's do it now.
Made by Hallmark Entertainment, which was the same company that made Mr. Saint Nick.
Right.
This was for NBC, I believe. The other one was made for ABC Disney, and just starring a bunch of people that were either. Well, hold on. It is Law and Order NBC? It is, isn't it?
So one of the things I noticed, and we'll talk about it later, but yeah, there are a few familiar faces in this adaptation.
Right. A number.
Yeah, and music by the great Alan Menken, who of course is most known for writing the music for Home on the Range, the amazing 2004 Disney animated film Home on the Range. You gotta love it. And some crap called Little Shop of Horrors.
And that person did the Alan Menken. He did the music.
He did the music for this, and this was apparently based on like I guess like a Broadway production, like some sort of stage. It really is obvious that this was a stage musical that they condensed into like an hour and a half television special.
The music was written by Alan Menken and Lynn Ahrens, and Lynn Ahrens is the one who turned it into a teleplay, which made it a TV movie that they turned. So it went straight. So you can't blame anybody besides the original musical writers because they got one of them to write the script.
Oh, I was going to blame Charles Dickens.
Oh, absolutely.
This is all your fault.
Take it all the way back to Charles Dickens. If you're not familiar, I guess we can get into that. Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol, which sort of has inadvertently, unintentionally based on Charles Dickens' intention, has become like a thing about the Christmas spirit, and it's sort of been co-opted by the holiday. It was originally about the evils of capitalism and like how awful like that specific time period in England was, the Victorian era, because people were starving in the street and people weren't giving a shit.
Right.
Like Ebenezer Scrooge is thought of today as like a hysterically evil like villain, much like Cruella de Vil, like somebody comically written to be absurdly he's a straw man, somebody whose ideas are completely unsupportable, which is why it's funny that the things he says about like surplus population were actual economic theories at the time, developed by certain talking heads in Britain. And he was just like Ebenezer Scrooge says, "You're taking my words and using against me." Like, he wrote a story to point out how ridiculous their world beliefs are. And instead of taking those lessons and making better economic systems 150 years later, 170 years later, we put up a balloon of Snoopy around this time of year. And isn't that nice? That's actually Thanksgiving. But you get my point. We don't do anything, and we didn't learn anything.
We leaned really hard into the Christmas aspect of it, not so much like the morality yeah. But this was
in fact, you could argue that like the whole community welfare and like doing good for other people, making it one time of year isn't the point, but it sure is in this adaptation, and it sure is in other adaptations. Specifically, you should be kind on Christmas, and all the other days, whatever, it doesn't matter.
And this was interesting for me because I'd never actually seen an adaptation of A Christmas Carol before. So I didn't.
That's a lie.
Well, I've seen. Well, okay. So like, except for the 1901 silent film version, the 1951 version without Alistair Sim, the 1970 musical version with Albert Finney, the 1978 Rankin Bass animated version,
That's
An American favorite. Christmas Carol with Henry Winkler from 1979. 1984, the version with George C. Scott, 1988 Scrooge with Bill Murray, the 1997 Tim Curry animated version, the 1997 version where Scrooge is played by a woman, All Dogs Go to Heaven Christmas, Mr. Magoo's Christmas, Mickey's Christmas Carol, Muppet Christmas Carol, Flintstones Christmas Carol, a Smurfs Christmas Carol, the 1999 version with Patrick Stewart, that creepy CGI Jim Carrey version from 2009. Yeah. Other than those. Oh wait.
Other than those.
Oh wait. Season 1, episode 20 of 100 Good Deeds for Eddie McDowd, titled "A Very Canine Christmas," which borrows heavily from the Dickens tale. So aside from those, but I'd never seen this version before. So I was curious to see how this differed from all of those.
Right. And what if you could make a list, Adam, of all the ways that this was different than the other Christmas carols? How many items are on
this one sure did have Kelsey Grammer in it. he was prominently featured. I mean, yeah, this is I think I saw like there's some article list on the internet like top 10 Christmas Carol adaptations, best to worst, and this is number 9.
Fascinating. I don't know. I don't know if you checked the Wikipedia page for this specific musical, but under reception, the first line is Brian Lowry of Variety called the film the 37th best selection of A Christmas Carol I've ever seen.
I mean, that's accurate because there's so fucking many versions of this, and like this doesn't really contribute a whole lot to the story. I mean, arguably the music is probably its biggest contribution, but the music is kind of annoying in this movie, in my opinion.
There aren't any toe tap. There aren't any that I was like, oh man, I've got to add that to my
Muppet
YouTube
Christmas
playlist
has this movie beat as far as the Christmas Carol musicals go.
In every single scene, in every scene where I was thinking of like, oh, this scene also had a song in Muppet Christmas Carol, I was like, the song in Muppet Christmas Carol was better.
Right.
Objectively, in every single one.
I actually, I don't know what it is about these movies, because this happened last year with Mr. St. Nick, but it made me want to go back and watch the better version, which was Tim Allen's The Santa Claus. So this made me go back and rewatch Muppet Christmas Carol. I only watched like maybe the first half of it, but it's so funny to compare the two.
Michael Caine is such a good.
He's like super. He's like a really pissed off Scrooge. Like that's what.
He's an you can get the idea that he's like cold and angry. Like the thing about we were texting a little bit about Kelsey Grammer's portrayal. He is obviously he's a trained thespian.
Right.
He's got a very good singing voice, but he's kind of playing Scrooge like a goblin. He's got, like, his back is all crushed over, and you feel
Leave
like
me,
spirit. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a gold coin and then swallows it whole. Like he's like a monster, man. Michael Caine is playing Scrooge
like an actual human being.
A person that's been burned by the world and it's turned him cold in the center, and like he has like a human reaction to the people around him.
Even when the people around him are talking frogs and rats. And
Right. Absolutely.
You know what? You know what would have made A Muppet Christmas Carol just slightly better if Scrooge was the only human in that entire world. Like if it was if everybody, because there are humans in that version of it, but if they just made it all Muppets, I could understand being the way that Scrooge is in that world. Imagine being the only man.
Of course I don't want to loan out, like, my bank's money to this fucking talking raccoon. Of course I don't. I'm not going
to give this Swedish chef all this money for his... he just throws food around.
Have you seen the documentation for his business plan? It's just written out... I'm not going to see a dime from this.
So... Well, we should... So I guess we should talk about the actual... we'll probably jump back and forth between this and other versions of it. But, I mean, let's talk about... we're going to talk about A Christmas Carol, the 2004 Kelsey Grammer one. And we're going to talk about... I don't know. We're going to talk about, you know, we're going to talk about the podcast. We're going to talk about the past, present, and future of the Frazier on Frazier podcast.
Absolutely. Can I contribute one thing
Please.
Quickly? So I was doing some research while we were recording, as I like to I like to think of myself as the value I bring is the research. And the thing that, so as I pointed out, Mr. Saint Nick and A Christmas Carol were produced by the same production company, Hallmark Entertainment. And then I found an interesting other thing that holds them in common. They were both executive produced by Camille Grammer, who I, after some research, very quickly found out was married to Kelsey Grammer during both of the production of these films. And since then, they have divorced.
Right.
And I'd like to think it's partially because she made him be in two different Christmas movies.
You say that, but as we were getting ready to record this, I found out there's actually a new Kelsey Grammer Christmas movie out, which I guess we're going to have to talk about next year. But it's got John Cleese in it, and I don't know what it is, but it's, I mean, those two together just And the other thing I thought you were going to bring this up, but the other connection this movie has to Mr. Saint Nick, aside from Kelsey Grammer and his wife, is the guy playing in this one. He's playing Fezziwig, Brian Bedford, who was in Mr. Saint Nick. He was the assistant guy.
He was the odd sort of butler.
Right. Who was also an elf, maybe.
Yes.
Precisely. And I mean, I think Brian Bedford and Kelsey Grammer must be like really close buds, because he was in these two movies. He was in Frasier. He was on Cheers. He's just been in everything that Kelsey Grammer's ever done. It's crazy.
He was also the voice. We brought this up last time.
I think we did.
Every time that he's the voice of Robin Hood from Robin Hood, and that's delightful to me.
So, I mean, what other things are there to talk about, Wes? We also have Jason Alexander in this movie from the Seinfeld.
Here's what I'm afraid of, is we're gonna list all the actors that are in this film. Like, oh, you know who else was in this movie? Charlie Chaplin. And then we just go, huh, and then that's the end of the thought. Like, I think we'll have things to say with Jason Alexander, and I love Jesse L. Martin for his work in Law and Order, and he was in
This
Rent,
was before Rent, though.
Fine. This was before Rent. But the point I'm getting at is, like, how much do we really have to say about what Jesse L. Martin brought to the table, except that I preferred when he was a Muppet that slowly aged. Here I would like to say two things, and then let's explore if we have anything left to say realistically. I was thinking the entire time that Jason Alexander was doing his musical number, like, this would be so much more funny in, like, a diner if Jacob Marley transported him to that diner that they have in Seinfeld. Right. Honestly, I think I would have preferred, instead of a song, I had a number of issues with the song. First of all, like, Jacob Marley says, "You'll be visited by 3 ghosts." And then Kelsey Grammer is like, well, actually, if you're visiting me and you name 3 other ghosts, aren't I being visited by 4 ghosts? And then Jacob Marley says, just for that, 6 more ghosts. And they all have puns. And, like, one of them, like, reaches out and is like, I never had a heart, because his chest is full of gold. And it's like, okay. And then they have 4 more puns that I don't want to say on our podcast. I think too highly of our podcast to repeat the puns that we saw. He was fine. He also, like, dropped dead
right.
in a way that was...
Very dramatic.
Right.
And the Oscar goes to Jason Alexander for...
And the Oscar goes to Jason Alexander for Best Death Scene. Just was like, oh, I'm getting too old for this shit. I'm 2 days from retiring, from being a miser. And then he stands up and tries to walk and immediately collapses. And then Kelsey Grammer is like, oh,
can we talk about the transition? Because there's that scene, but right before it, you have, like, teenage Scrooge, like, in the same building, like, in the same room.
The New Adventures of Young Scrooge, yes.
And then they cut, and it's just Kelsey Grammer in a wig.
Right.
They got like someone else, like Kelsey Grammer wanted to play like the teenage Scrooge, but they're
absolutely very much like Steve Buscemi. How do you do? Yes.
But they're like, no, we'll just use you when he's slightly older.
Right.
No, but about Jason Alexander and like that whole, well, I guess just the music in this film in general, because I think that, like, the major thing that I don't like about this is that obviously this was a play or some kind of production beforehand. So, like, right. So it's like meant to be like more fleshed out. It's meant to, like, probably be like what, 3 hours long, most musicals, like, stage productions.
Conceivably.
Right. So they just squashed it all into a 1 hour and 30-minute film, which you take out all... this was the thing I was noticing while I was watching Muppet Christmas Carol, because you take out, like, everything that isn't, like, a song, and you have almost... Right. And it's just songs back to back to back to back. And I think that's what people... I think people who dislike musicals, which we're both right. musical fans, but I think people who dislike musicals, that's the thing that they hate the most, is just the nonstop singing. And this film definitely has that.
I think if you cut out all of the songs, the film is maybe 9 to 12
right, like, it's so crazy. Oh, and like I was thinking, like, the song that the Ghost of Christmas Present sings in this goes on for way too fucking long. It was like half the movie. Right. Like, what the fuck?
It was it was 43 of the 87
and it looks like they filmed it all in one take and just didn't do any other takes.
Right.
Because it's like a big production. They got, like, the Rockettes and Kelsey Grammer's trying to dance along with them. It's a mess.
It's there's a lot going on. There's just too.
I mean, you have the so in this version, Kelsey Grammer Scrooge meets all of the ghosts before he actually encounters them. They're on the streets as, like, beggars, right. and
there are a ton of just people that are in dire straits in London streets.
Very good-looking people in dire straits.
Right, they're very attractive. They definitely are attractive enough to have a headshot, nail the audition, get into a TV movie, but also they're horribly poor. And in between the first scene, which is just like a bunch of business people, I don't know if the opening scene. I don't know if the people that staged that part have ever been to a bank, because usually there's like a place where you line up or something, but instead like business people are just like constantly walking by each other, and Scrooge is just kind of like shuffling around the middle, and people are walking up to him directly and being like, I need money, and it's like, get away from me. Like
it's one of those old banks like you see in Mary Poppins. It's like they got a big open area and people are just walking around and doing bank stuff.
Right. I mean, even in Mary Poppins, there's that line where the banker is that all the old people were, and then Jane and Michael like get in a fight with the owner of that bank that wants their nickel, and they're like, "Give me back my money!" And then that causes the panic. And the people in the line go in and are like, "Hey, I want my money back too. Things are happening," and they have to shut down the stand. So there was a stand in Mary Poppins, but in this film, it's just like. You just walk up to a banker and you, like, try to rob him. Or, like, try to convince him. Like, hey, I want your money. And it's like, okay, well, all right, fine.
See, it's... This movie, man. I don't know. It was a poorly thought out idea seen to completion.
Right. It was completed. They can't say they turned in an unfinished product.
And speaking of ill-conceived ideas seen to completion, Frazier on Frazier, the podcast that you're listening to.
Can I add?
Okay, sure.
Can I add one single more thing, which is the person that directed this movie. Fun fact, also directed Hercules in New York, the debut.
Oh my God! Yes,
yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get Arnold Schwarzenegger to come on the podcast, but so far,
Adam, why won't you use those Schwarzenegger connections and get us some star power?
I really want to, but it's tough. These things take time.
Yeah. Do we have? Okay, I know. Well, I'm gonna let you handle your business. Do we realistically have anything to say about Jennifer Love Hewitt as Emily, Geraldine Chaplin as the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Be, Jesse L. Martin as Christmas Present, Jane Krakowski as the Ghost of Christmas Past? Do we have anything to say about any of these people besides like, hey, they're famous now? I do have one. I have one thing to say. It's the very last thought I had, and it was the only time I was watching the movie that I laughed. And it was a laugh that I gave myself. I think that's important. But there was that moment where, in between, right after the Ghost of Christmas Present disappears. Okay, I did make myself laugh twice, but I don't know. I'll share both with you. Jesse L. Martin as Christmas Present. I was thinking the entire time, like, when is he going to start aging? Because that was the whole thing with the Muppets, where like. The Ghost of Christmas Present was young and vibrant, and then he ages because the present is fleeting. And then I realized, that isn't from Christmas Carol. That's something the Muppets came up with, and it's brilliant. And it's something I think about all the time. That wasn't on Charles Dickens. Put 1 point in Jim Henson's pocket and take it out of Charles Dickens' pocket. Get it out of there. But Jesse L. Martin opens his cloak, and he's like, I have 2 children. No. Kelsey Grammer goes, are these your children? And Jesse L. Martin goes, they're humanity's children, and they're ignorance and want. And they cut to a kid that's like cross-eyed to show that he's stupid. And I was like, okay, that's something. It was like not a joke, but I was looking at this kid that just had to hold his eyes cross-eyed, and I was like, this is something. There's something to this. And the other thing, and this was the laugh that was entirely on my own, in between present and past, right? In between present and future, yet to be. The blind woman that we see in the original scene, but that becomes the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Be, takes a stick and starts hammering on Scrooge's door, and he runs down the stairs and opens it, and I was just really and she's gone. It's important. She hammers on the door, he opens the door, she's gone, and he goes out on the stoop like, where could she be? And I was really hoping when he looked down there would be a bag on fire on his doorstep. and that the movie would, like, he'd stomp it out and it would be full of shit, and then that would be, he would wake up and then that would be the Ghost of Christmas.
That's all the revelation. That's all the that's
Right.
all the motivation he needs to be good.
He's damn it. The Ghost of Christmas Present already convinced me, so the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Be decided to Ashton Kutcher punked me with a goddamn bag with shit in it. That's all right. I'll still have the Christmas spirit, but that kind of soured my mood a little bit.
Well, Wes, I have one more Christmas surprise for us. I've managed to pull a few strings, and I'm happy to announce Arnold Schwarzenegger live via satellite is joining us on the podcast, and I want everyone and so he's here right now. He's gonna talk to us. So how are you doing, Arnold?
Hello.
Hey, hello, Arnold. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's the middle of the night, but But hey, yeah. I mean, we're so happy to have you. So like, what's going on? How are you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Well, yeah, it's very nice to meet you too, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Hey, Adam, can I ask
Sure,
Arnold
go
Schwarzenegger
ahead,
quick?
Wes, please.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, I've been trying to lose weight, and I will go to the kitchen and my hands will be just full of cookies. My hands will be just filled to the brim with cookies. Yes, cookies. And if I were in a position where if I wanted to lose weight, what would you suggest I do with a cookie that I have in my hand?
Put that cookie down now.
I think you're right. I think you're correct. Ultimately, I think that's going to help me a lot on my weight loss journey.
Yeah. Arnold, we're almost out of time, but did you have any? did you have any questions that you wanted to ask us? Perhaps about our family. Did you have any questions?
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Well, my dad he works for the state. He's a contractor. Actually, he's retired from that. He's doing great. But hey, thank you so much, Arnold Schwarzenegger, for joining us. We're so great. It was so great having you on. Thank you. Goodbye.
What the fuck is going on here?
Oh man, this has been the most magical Christmas episode we've done yet, Wes.
This has been a star-studded episode. I can't believe we pulled this off. That was actually Arnold Schwarzenegger and not a sound. Why would anyone think that would be a sound? It's so funny that Arnold finds a way to organically reference his films in interviews years after the fact. It's so fun. It's so fun that he can do
he's such a, and he still looks good, doesn't he?
Well, we're on a podcast.
Right, no, they can't see, but we saw him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We should have asked him about Jingle All the Way. Fuck.
Ah, damn it. I can't believe we didn't think of that. So sorry, hold on, let me understand. Within the canon of our podcast, Adam, you've decided that you realized 30 minutes ago, we should have Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we got him here, and he didn't call in. He was here with us.
Yes.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure.
Right, that was to build tension. That was to build.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I think we're done with the Christmas Carol.
I feel done with it. I never think about
Me
it
neither. But we should mention a bit about the podcast because we probably should have done this at the beginning, but I mean, this is this is the first time we've posted something in a while.
Right.
We've been kind of taking a break, but also like still working on it. So we're recording this episode, and it's going to be out for Christmas, and then in the new year we're going to have the rest of Frazier on Frazier season 2. So hope everyone's looking forward to that. And beyond that, I don't know what's happening. Frazier on Frazier might become one of those things that we do maybe once a year.
Yeah, it might be one of those special once a year.
Right, we're gonna
that are so popular.
we'll review the last episode when the sun explodes. Like,
Yeah, that sounds fun.
So, but we really do appreciate everyone who's tuned in and listened. It's been, I think it's been a fun. The last couple episodes that we recorded have actually been really fun. I feel like, this whole last half of the season has just been me slowly descending into madness. Like, I'm on so many different levels of irony, Wes. I don't even know. I can't even distinguish from reality anymore.
Oh, okay.
My soul is horrifying, Wes.
Wow. Okay. I didn't.
I bought everybody a Blu-ray copy of Wild Wild West for Christmas this year. That was my gift to everybody, Wes.
I didn't get one.
Well, yours hasn't come in the mail yet.
I'm just disappointed. I will say I have been trying this podcast genuinely with my whole heart, and to find out you've been bringing irony to my pure-hearted effort.
You're right.
Is just disrespectful.
I know. I'm so sorry, Wes, but yeah, we started it out. This started out as kind of a way of poking fun at Frazier, and now it's I don't know what it is, but it's still been fun hanging out with you, and I've enjoyed all of our conversations, and I look forward to whatever it is we're doing after this. But anyway, Merry Christmas, everybody. This might be this won't be the last time you hear from us, but
we aren't going into the mountains to die.
Right.
We aren't this isn't like an Inuit people situation where we're no longer useful to the internet, so we're getting on an ice cove to be pushed off to die with dignity. We'll be around, but we probably won't do 11 seasons of the podcast. I think we're gonna do 10. Is that completely opposite of what you just said, Adam? Are we against promising right now to do 10
whatever it is? You can be sure of one thing, and that's that you'll hate it. So I hope everyone has a good Christmas or whatever holiday it is you celebrate. And thank you for listening. And we'll see you. We'll see you in the new year. How's that? We'll see. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy winter solstice. End the episode.
Frazier on Frazier podcast wishes to thank KACL780.net for providing episode transcripts and Ronald O'Connell for providing our theme song, Frazier MIDI.